Okay. And Bradley watches us on RADTV at members.radradio.com and wrote in during the commercial break because he saw what he was asking about. Is that Shelby? When he's on the show, he is always so positive. Even if I'm having a bad day after listening to him, he makes me feel so good. Yes. Shelby Elias from financewithshelby.com is here. Hey, Shelby.
Hey.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
So,
good morning.
A little bird told me, and I don't know if I've got it exactly right. Is it a week from today is your birthday?
Yes. It's my 40th birthday.
Happy birthday, man.
I was wondering if it was 39 or if it was the big 40.
40.
I knew that you were a fellow Virgo because we share so many qualities and traits. So are you doing the thing? It's 40. Are you doing something big, or is it just another birthday spending with the family? Well, you're working, I know, on your birthday.
Yeah. I mean, what's so crazy is I always had these big plans and big dreams, and I'm like, this is what I'm gonna do for my 40th birthday. And as I got older, I'm like, you know what? I don't really want any of that.
Right.
I really just want to be like with my closest friends, hanging out and just enjoying them and enjoying life and slowing it down. And it's so weird, though, but that's really what I'm doing and what I want.
It's out of character for you, but it's the right next progression.
It totally is.
Yeah. So if you have any questions for Shelby, RAD@radradio.com. He's here also at 888-989-9811. Whenever you're here, we talk about a variety of things, including a lot of times just the economy or credit scores. And I thought of you yesterday when I saw that the latest report is Americans have added $43 billion of credit card debt in the second quarter of this year. So just April, May, June, we added a collective $43 billion. The average American household has just over $10,000 in credit card debt. So they're not talking car loans, home loans, anything else. And a record number of Americans say they're worried about being cut off from access to loans. 3 out of 5 respondents say it's more difficult than ever to access credit. How concerning is all of this?
I mean, honestly, it is pretty concerning. I think people are feeling it right now, and the inflation report just came out this morning, and it's looking like inflation is still higher than they had anticipated. So we still have another, I'd say, at least 9-month run on inflation before they start actually cutting rates and providing some relief. They need to keep the foot on the gas pedal. So, one thing that we could reflect on in the past, everybody knows somebody that lost it all, in 2008. And the reason why they lost it all is because they just weren't prepared. So what people really need to do right now is you have to start adjusting your lifestyle, making those changes. And a lot of people are going to say, you know what, I'm doing good. Like, I manage my finances. I'm doing all right. Right now is the time that you need to be doing great. You need to cut everything that you don't need off, start making the very best financial decisions, and make sure that you do access some of that credit in case you do need it. Because when you need it, it's too late.
So we've been, and this is not meant as an I told you so thing, but we and I, when you're not around, have been telling people it was going to get worse as the summer went on, and right around nowish, especially because, okay, we all took our summer vacations, and then it's back to school, and it was going to kind of hit a lot of people. And then you alluded to exactly the other big problem, inflation, which is the cost of everything going up, and the fact that it isn't stopping for a variety of reasons. Yes, the Federal Reserve and their rates, that's a big part of it. Gas is through the roof again. Oil is through the roof again. And so this cost of everything, people are really, really feeling it as they're just trying to go back to school, make dinners, and things like that. So we're going to get to the how and the why that you can access some of this credit, depending on your situation, for no other reason so that you're prepared.
So with credit, how does it affect, you say like the rates are up and everything due to inflation. Does your credit affect your rate? Say you get a loan for a house or an auto loan or anything. Do they set a marked number on that rate, or does your credit affect how much rate you get?
Yeah, that's a great question. So your credit score is affecting the interest rate that you get and the ability to be able to pull more out. So, for example, if you wanted to access some of the equity in your home through home equity line of credit, they'll allow you to go all the way up to 90% of the value of your home. So you take the difference of what your current loan amount is and the amount of equity that you have, and you can use 90% of the value, and that's what you can access. That's only if you have a 740 credit score. If you go down to maybe a 640 credit score, you only have access to 60% of the value. That's a big swing. You know, you go from being able to access 90% to 60. That could be the difference between somebody actually accessing anything or not.
So a home equity line of credit, often referred to as a HELOC. So because numbers can be hard on the radio and such. So let's just say that so you say it's the value of the house under appraisal. Is that right?
Yep. The appraised value.
Okay, so let's say that's 500,000 to keep it easy.
Okay.
And then it's what you owe on it is this, and then we're going to subtract, and that's how we get the 90%. So if you owe 300,000, you're going to get 90. You can get 90% of $200,000.
Well, let's just kind of break down the numbers.
Sure.
So if we go,
I really want people to understand this, and then that's going to lead to my next question.
if your house is worth 500,000, you can access 90%, which is $450,000.
Oh, you can just access 90% of the value.
Of the value.
Okay.
Yep. So now you're at 450,000 of the 500, and then you take off if you owe 300. Now you subtract the 300. Now you have access to $150,000.
And one of the big words there, especially after we talk about all this credit card debt, is access. You don't have to suddenly spend $150,000, right? It can just sit there.
Yep.
And it can sit there, I think, I think it depends, right? For years.
Yeah.
Some of these loans, I think, have there's like in 3 years you don't even access it. Then I guess it just goes away. And some loans, I just did one on my commercial building. I know those things are a little different, but it's the ultimate like safety net that you're talking about in this environment right now.
Correct.
And what people are doing in America is they're running up their credit cards, which are way higher interest rates.
Yeah, that's bad debt.
And they're not going to have anywhere to run. If you're at $10,000 average household debt, and most Americans, overwhelmingly more now than ever since I believe it's the 70s, are paycheck to paycheck, you get that catastrophic thing, the medical bill, you know, I mean, start going down the list of what it is.
Yeah.
And your credit cards are maxed out. This is how you're in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And that's kind of one of the many, because there's a lot of reasons we would do a HELOC, but in this environment, that's one really good reason.
And if your credit cards are maxed out, now your credit score is going down. So before you max the cards out, if you would have taken out a HELOC, you could have went up to 90%. But now that you maxed out your credit cards, maybe you can only go up to 60 or 70%, and now you don't have access to any of the funds.
So let's go back to your example. We've gotten $150,000 out. We have access to $150,000 through our HELOC. And we've got $15,000 in credit card debt that we're paying who knows what, 14, 24% on. Would you advise somebody, if they asked you, to dip into the HELOC money, which you're not paying 14 to 24% on, get rid of that credit card debt, and then wait and see what happens?
100%. If you're using credit cards, that's the worst debt that you can possibly use. So you'd want to access a home equity line of credit, and your credit cards are really at like 28, 30%, maybe even higher than that. So you're going to take out a home equity line of credit. First off, pay those cards off. And you only pay on what you owe. And the coolest thing about a home equity line of credit is it's like a credit card that you can utilize the equity in your home, and you could use it for whatever you want. If you use it for home improvements and stuff, now everything on that you used, all of the interest that you're paying, is actually tax deductible too. So there's a massive value there. But then you have the ability to pay it off, and when you pay it off, you no longer have to make a monthly payment on that, but you still have your $150,000 line that you can access at any time.
What do rates look like on a HELOC exactly? Does it depend on each person?
There's a ton of different variables on, property type, credit score, how much the line is, but you're somewhere between 9 and 12%.
What about people that are newer homeowners, more recent homeowners who are maybe going, well, that's great, but my house, my value hasn't gone up versus what I owe on it very much. And okay, the difference on Shelby's formula is $10,000, $20,000. What's their hope?
Yeah, well, if they put a large down payment down, now you can access those funds for sure. but you have to have at least 10% equity still in your home in order to qualify for the home equity line.
I was just kind of thinking of those folks as well, in the sense of like, I don't even know what the right word is. Weird time, terrible time. I mean, when you think about people cutting things out, I sit and I wonder what are the majority of people going to cut out? Because it's like the basics of, like, not fun things, right? But just the basics have gone up. Whatever your budget is in your individual home of getting what we consider the necessities, right? Food, and you're paying your power bill, like gas. If you just kept it to that, it is absolutely more, extremely more than what it was before, and a lot of wages are kind of staying the same. So I'm like, what are you gonna cut out? You know, what are you gonna cut out? Gas? You gonna cut out? I mean, I guess you could do your best with your power bill where you don't run the air. I don't know, but it's like it's one of those times where I feel there are absolutely, I'm sure, absolutely, Shelby, there are so many people that could probably sit and go, yeah, okay, cut this and this out, and I'm going to have a little more money. And then there are those who are like, okay, I guess I'll cut out gas, power, and rent, you know, like, because that's what, and food, because those are like the basics they're paying for. And it's just not enough of what things cost and what people make. It's just,
it's how a lot of Americans are living
yes.
right now. We're with Shelby Elias from financewithshelby.com, 888-989-9811, or email us, rad@radradio.com. We got this one from Adrian.
Hey, Adrian.
Says, Shelby, I'm a new homeowner. I opted for MT taxes. Or is that a typo?
I don't know, but
okay, MT taxes. Maybe she mean mortgage insurance, or I'm not sure what it means. MT taxes and insurance to be pulled with my mortgage payment. First year was fine, and suddenly a few months ago my payments went up $700. We have a VA loan. Can this be adjusted, or is there something I can do to keep this from sneaking up on me again next year?
I bet what probably happened was there was a supplemental tax bill. That's a one-time bill that comes after you purchase the home, and the supplemental tax bill was not paid. Therefore, they added that to her principal and interest and taxes and insurance. That's what she meant to say, the total payment. So her tax bill went up. They added that to the payment. Once that tax bill is paid in full, the payment should go back down.
And it won't keep happening to her.
Nope.
Kevin wrote in and said, we've been taking everything you guys are talking about into consideration. My mother's taking out a HELOC on her existing home to put a down payment on a new home for herself, so my family and I can move into her current home. We'll rent her current home from her for a while, rebuild our credit from bankruptcy, and then purchase the home from her once we're eligible in at least 2 years.
Nice.
That is a great thing to touch on. And hopefully they called me for that. Those are the types of strategies that we go over is that, like, you should take the home equity line of credit out, even if you know that, okay, in the future I'm going to use this as a rental property. Perfect. Take the home equity line out now. That we have access to it. You only pay if you borrow, but at least it's set up. And you set it up while it was your primary residence, so you get better terms. And then at that point, you can pull from that HELOC to pay the down payment on your next house. So a lot of the coaching that I do is making sure that people understand all of these things. I had a lady call me yesterday, said, hey, Shelby, I'm selling my house in Elk Grove, and I'm buying another house that's in Penryn. I said, okay, why are you selling the house in Elk Grove? And she's like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, hold on. Like, there's a reason. Like, well, why? Well, because I need the down payment for the next house. I said, okay, well, let's vet that out and see if you actually do need it. Because what's your interest rate? And she said at 2.875. I said, you know, I really hate for you to let go of the 2.875. So let's calculate the cash flow. How much would your house rent for? What's your current payment? I said, if you keep this house, you're going to get a depreciation write-off on this house. Your tenant is going to be paying down this house for you. So every month that they make a payment, you're going to have a principal payment going down. They're going to pay it off. And you're going to have cash flow. So then I taught her about cash flow. I said, hey, that you can use that extra $2,000 a month in rent over what the payment is to help you pay the next payment. And then we can take out a home equity line of credit for the down payment on the next house. She's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Do I call my realtor? I'm like, yeah, you probably should. I would not let go of that house.
If you want a lot of access to that, by the way, don't forget to follow Shelby on Instagram at Shelby Elias, Elias. Emails, this one is from Matthew.
Hey, Matthew.
I'm considering a HELOC. Do you have to have your house appraised, closing costs, other fees? Any suggestions on where to find the best one? Well, I know you know where to find the best one.
Yeah. Give me a call. But no, you don't have to have your house appraised. They can do an automated value on the home, which makes it really easy. Any of the fees that are associated with setting up the home equity line of credit, they come out of your equity. So you actually don't have to pay anything out of pocket in order to set it up.
No name on this one says, I'm a new home owner. Oh my God. I'm a new home owner as of July. How soon can I apply for a home equity loan?
As long as you have the equity, you're ready to roll.
Michael says, my wife and I just bought a new home. It was a new construction. We put 20% down. Would it be too soon to look into getting the HELOC and using the money to get our backyard done? We didn't have the home builder finish the backyard because we wanted to design it ourselves. What would the HELOC do to our monthly payment?
Yep. So we would calculate what that 10% is, because if you put 20% down, then you can get a HELOC for the other 10%. And then when you put those repairs in your yard, any of the interest payments that you're making on that home equity line is now a tax write-off.
Another HELOC question from James. I've heard that HELOC sometimes require a complete payback, essentially at random. Is this true? If I've borrowed $20,000 from my access line of my HELOC, can the lender tell me to pay back that $20,000 in full at any time?
No.
Yeah,
not true.
Yikes. And then there is a lot of misinformation out there, I know. Shane says, I put a roof and solar on my house. I initially put 10% down. I have more than 20% into the home. Can I get the PMI removed? It's a standard 30-year mortgage.
You can get the PMI removed if you have 20% equity in the house. So you just literally can call in. They'll do an appraisal. And if you have 20% equity, then the PMI gets removed. Also, if you use the home equity line of credit to add solar to your home, that's a home improvement. And now whenever you make that payment on the HELOC for the solar, it's a tax deductible as well.
A couple other emails, rad@radradio.com. Robert says, question for Shelby, how accurate are the credit scores that you get from sites such as Credit Karma or your bank?
They are not that accurate. They're probably between 30 or 40 points higher. So when we run it for a mortgage, it's going to be lower.
Is there a way somebody can find out what their legit credit score is?
Yeah, they have to go in those apps and find the mortgage score, because what they're pulling on is their consumer credit card score. So they're trying to advertise like, hey, here's your score if you get a credit card. Well, they score you different from mortgage.
So back to credit cards and how we started all this. Anonymous question, how does Shelby feel about a credit card transfer to an 18-month 0% credit card with the plan to pay it off before the end of 18 months? I've got an 800 plus credit score and I don't have a damn house.
I love that. I love the transfers. Take advantage of the zero interest. I think that's a great move. And I'm not against credit cards. I spend all of my money on credit cards, but you have to pay off the balance in full at the end of the month. Then you get free points. You're also not at risk of losing your own money. There's protections there against fraud and things like that. So I do use all of my credit cards every month. I just pay them all off in full so I don't get charged any interest.
We talked a lot this morning about HELOCs, home equity line of credits. Michelle says, I tried to apply for a HELOC. I'm going through a divorce. I have two maxed out credit cards, and I did talk to someone from United Wholesale Lending, who is my mortgage company, and they said my debt to income is too high. Shouldn't I be able to use a HELOC to pay off my debt?
Yeah, you can use the home equity line to pay off the debt, but it must have, still been too high. So there are some parameters there. Yeah, that stinks. Have her maybe send me an email and I'll try to see if I can rework it out.
I'll set aside her email for you too.
That's so sweet.
Adam says, Rob, would Shelby recommend a HELOC or a home equity loan? First of all, the difference and why.
Great question. So a home equity loan in this current environment, I would not say to do, because we're already so far into rate hikes that we can expect rate cuts to come in the next year. So if you take a loan, then say you wanted, $150,000 off that last example, you couldn't choose to take it in increments or pay it off and still have access to the $150,000. Basically, what they would do is they're going to bait you in with a little bit lower rate than the home equity line of credit, but then now they give you all $150,000. And now you're like, well, shoot, I didn't need it all at one time. Well, now you have to take it all, and then you're going to pay on that until it's all paid off, to where the home equity line of credit has the ability to have the flexibility. You can say, okay, I only need $50,000 now, and then you come into a little bit of money and you pay the $50,000 off, but you still have access to the whole $150,000. So the line of credit is flexible. You could pay it off and utilize it as much as you want, and you're only required to make the interest-only payment.
By the way, I just realized, and I thought I had a fail-safe for this, that we didn't announce the 8:30 word for the Aftershock tickets. Oh. So, Brando, is there a hack around that we do? Should I just do it now and we'll post something also online to let people know, or how would you advise?
I think we should just do it right now.
All right, let me really quickly just do this. It's Friday night at Aftershock. Pair of tickets through our Facebook page or at Rad Radio Insta for details. And you need the word every morning. It's either 7:30 or 8:30 or this morning at 8:50. It got moved.
Hey, it's 8:30-ish.
It is. It is. It's closer to 8:30 than 9:30.
It's the 8:30 segment.
Your 8:30 word for Wednesday is crowds, CROWDS. Crowds, CROWDS. You'll need that as part of your end of the week sentence for Friday night Aftershock tickets. Details on Facebook and at Rad Radio Insta. Back to Shelby and financewithshelby.com. Carrie says if you take out a HELOC on, let's say, $150,000 and only use $12,000 to pay off credit cards, and then years later want to take out more for, say, a deposit on a new home, does your rate stay the same or change the current market rate?
Yep. So the beauty about the home equity line of credit is that it fluctuates where current market rates are. So it could potentially go up, but also that's the difference between the home equity loan and the HELOC, is that the home equity loan is a fixed rate. The HELOC is adjustable. So when the feds start cutting rates, then the rate will go down.
Scotty says, thoughts on using a HELOC as a down payment for another property. More specifically, we're looking to purchase a large piece of property that has an existing business on it that we intend to bring back to its glory days. The home we currently own has equity in the neighborhood of $300,000.
Yes, I love that plan. Keep your current home, pull the equity line, and use that as the down payment for the next one.
And which is going to be a money-making opportunity if they do it right.
Yeah.
John says, my wife and I are considering taking some money out for a home equity line of credit. We want to pay off our cars and redo our deck. In this economy, as you were talking about earlier, does that sound like a good idea? Our house is worth a heck of a lot more than when we purchased it, if that makes a difference. Also, my wife does some real estate on the side, so we would be able to perhaps pay it back relatively quickly.
Yeah. So traditionally, you don't want to use long-term debt to pay off your car, because now if you can't pay off that home equity line, you're going to be paying on that car for the next 30 years, right? But if you're in a crunch where you're like, you know what, I just need to save the most amount of money possible, and this is going to save me monthly, then it is something that you do need to look at and say, man, if I could span my car payment over 30 years, it's going to save me a lot. So you just have to really break it down, and everybody's situation's different.
So we spent a lot of time on like HELOCs and home equity loans, a little bit on credit. For people that don't own a home, maybe they want to be first-time buyers. Of course, there's nothing good said publicly about what the current market conditions are. How do you see it, and whether or not people should be considering buying, waiting? Where are we?
Yeah. So right now, inventory is still super low. And inventory, I mean by homes on the market. A lot of sellers are not willing to sell because it doesn't make sense. Why would I sell and get rid of my 3.2 interest rate and buy another house? So they're simply not selling. They're like, no, I'm in a good spot. I like my payment that I have. I like my home. I'm staying here. So what that's doing is it's keeping home prices high. So I think that home prices will stay high. And when interest rates do fall, then monthly payments are then home prices are gonna push up even more. So it's crazy. Big institutions are still buying. You do have the luxury, if you can afford your monthly payment, to buy now and then pray that interest rates do go down, but you have to be comfortable with where the payment is now. So that's why you have to really just analyze it with me, and we'll go over the payment and say, okay, are you comfortable with this payment? If interest rates do fall, this is what it could look like in the future, but we need to make sure that you're comfortable with it now. But I know there's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines right now. So when rates fall, I'm positive that home prices are going to take another climb.
On the issue of going over and evaluating it with you, I know one of your big mistakes that homeowners make, whether it's first-time home buyers or they just have never heard you say it before, is they say, well, I got to talk to my real estate agent first. That's not right.
Yeah, not right. You want to come up with the game plan first. And what a lot of real estate agents will do too is they try to steer you to their lender. Like, oh, this is my lender. And it's the worst possible combination, because now you have somebody that isn't really in your corner. It's their corner, right? So you want to go with somebody that you trust their advice. This is a big financial decision, and you start off with the loan officer, you come up with the game plan. That's what I do, is I try to take as many calls as I possibly can. I post my number publicly too. You can find it on my Instagram page, and you can reach out to me direct to my direct cell phone. But we come up with the game plan together. And then at that point, you can go and start looking for homes without the pressure of, here's my lender, or, whatever.
A few more questions for Shelby from financewithshelby.com. What are your thoughts on using a home equity loan or line of credit for your child's education?
Man, well, if it means not getting them into the school that you love, as long as you can afford that home equity line of credit payment, then it's just like anything else,
That's a life decision. That's not a financially beneficial decision, right?
Yeah, it just depends. If you can afford it, then that's how you can afford it. You can utilize your home's equity to enhance the future of your kids.
And maybe the degree that they get will then allow them to repay you down the road
Yeah.
by paying off your
Double
loan.
interest.
Or
Exactly.
so
Charge
buying you a
kid.
mansion.
You're investing in your kids.
Steven says, my wife and I currently have a mortgage with you, Shelby. We're looking at remodeling our bathroom, mainly because her father has accessibility issues with his disability. We do have credit card debt. We've been discussing a HELOC, but we're hesitant. Would it be advisable to access that equity to take care of some of that debt, as well as to get to the funds we'd need for the remodel?
Yeah, I think that's a good plan.
Plus, that's one of your favorites, bathroom remodels.
Yeah.
Kitchen, bathroom, those are the first two, right?
Yeah.
Erica wants to know, does Shelby and his team help businesses buy real estate because they're so helpful with individuals?
It depends on what kind of business, but yeah, give me a call.
You can maybe do some kind of help there in that world.
Yeah.
Okay, one more thing. You mentioned inventory was tight, right?
Uh-huh.
What about, are you still involved with the new home, new construction, new build stuff? Because build stuff that people can buy.
Yeah. So with the new builds, I also own a real estate company. So one way that we can give back is the builders incentivize us to bring clients to them to show off their new home builds. And for doing so, they give us a commission. So what I can do is I can actually credit you some of that commission and give it back to you that you can utilize for closing costs or maybe upgrades in the home. So
great.
I would definitely say reach out to me if you're looking at new home builds, and I can put you down.
You can go right to financewithshelby.com. You can follow Shelby on Instagram at Shelby Elias, ELIAS. Anything else you want to mention before we go? And pre-happy birthday, almost 40 years old.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's exciting.
I have been working on some pretty cool stuff with like they're called like wraps on a mortgage, or like a subject to financing. And what we're able to do is we're finding homeowners that have great interest rates and that are maybe having a problem selling their home. And we can find a way to find a buyer that can actually take advantage of their low rate. So it helps the seller net more money, and then it helps the buyer because they're getting a much lower interest rate. So
Wow.
that is one thing that we're working on. So if that appeals to any of you guys, please reach out. We're also working on using that subject to financing to do some really cool Airbnb projects. So we're finding homes that would be great Airbnbs, or people that maybe have a failed Airbnb because they didn't really know how to manage it. And we're creating some funds to invest in these and taking those low interest rates and getting access to those to be able to really cash flow right now.
Always
So-
something with you.
I know,
it's always
I love
new
it
stuff.
so much.
As always, it's financewithshelby.com, on Insta at Shelby Elias, Elias. Shelby is Shelby. Thank you for being here, and happy birthday. Almost.